We had recently Lauren Whiteman on the Fruity Fridays. Fruity Fridays is a weekly Zoom session. If you want to join us there, you can. I'll maybe try and put a link below, or you can send me a message or whatever. Put a comment below if you want to join us. But Lauren gave a presentation on the 7 stages of disease, and Lauren's opinions and ideas, what I would say they're quite old school, and they're quite kind of classic natural hygiene terrain theory. I mean, she runs the terrain theory group on Facebook, so that's what she does, and she is obviously very researched and studied in some of those books and some of that information, and she makes a good presentation, and it comes across very eloquent and very strong and very persuasive. But that's not what's really interesting in terms of our path towards health. It's not can people give a persuasive argument, but is it real? Is it true? Will it help us? And I think that Lauren's ideas are incomplete. I think they're naive. I think that they're idealistic. I think that it's classic. To me, it's like beginner, newbie, rookie errors. And so I don't know how long Lauren's been doing this. To me, it seems like everyone claims to have been doing everyone who's trying to teach raw veganism or natural hygiene or health, alternative health, they all want to put themselves across as having done this for like so long, and yet it's kind of like they pop up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they've been doing this forever. And to me, like her, I just think she's not. Maybe she lives a very closeted life on her own somewhere, and hasn't met people and went out into the world. And I don't think she was at any of the Woodstock festivals or any of these events that I'm aware of. And that doesn't mean that everyone has to go there, but if you're not going to these events, how many raw vegans do you know in real life actually? And if you read a book by Herbert Shelton or TC Fry or whatever, have you met people that know those people or that knew those people or that met those people or worked with those people? Do you know the real story behind what's written and what people think is true? Do you know that there's more to it? So, and have you met people that are long-term experience with this lifestyle, have a lot of experiences with people? And if you don't, then I think there's a major, major missing point to your whole education in this. There's always a problem with the people who are the influencers online who have not really learned in real life from raw vegans, from long-term raw vegans, and haven't been around enough other raw vegans. There's always stuff missing in what they say. It doesn't make sense. They're saying stuff that's kind of weird and dangerous, and they get caught up in certain people that they idolize, and they just lack real perspective. Lauren has many times offered to like teach me or help me or educate me. I understand the resources that she uses and the people that she quotes. I get it. Uh, but I will share with you why I think some of her information is not correct. And when it's not correct, it's dangerous when it's health information. So the first thing is her. Obviously, she's following terrain theory, which is the idea that disease isn't caused by sort of outside forces imposing on the body. It's caused by an internal environment that's unclean, and that the bacteria and the viruses and all this are not the cause of the disease. They show up as a result of the body becoming toxic, as a result of a poor diet and other lifestyle factors and other toxic agents that the body is taking in. For some reason, toxins can cause disease, but not viruses and bacteria. Interesting. Anyway, so the whole idea is that all diseases are built up of toxins. All diseases are different symptoms on the 7 stages of disease, which I can't fully quote to you right now. I've not learned it, but it's like inflammation, innervation, inflammation, induration, all this stuff, and then tumor. It's the idea that like all diseases are like these stages towards tumor because they're all cell damage in the presence of of toxicity, toxic acids in the lymph system, you know. Now, let's look at the idea of toxin for a second. What is a toxin? A toxin is a chemical that is produced by a plant. This is the technical definition. Toxin is a chemical produced by a plant, generally, to protect it from being eaten by certain things. So, flowers, plants, fruits, vegetables have toxins in them. All the fruit you eat has toxins. All the vegetables you eat have toxins. And some of those toxins are so strong that certain life forms, particularly maybe smaller life forms like insects and stuff, can't eat them. There are people, I met a man who was allergic to salicylic acid, and that meant that he couldn't eat. He was told not to eat certain organic fruits and vegetables. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't understand it. Surely that's the healthiest foods possible. But what it was is that certain organic fruits or vegetables have been bred to be high in salicylic acid, which is a toxin, which is what do you call it? A pesticide, essentially. And it would have a negative effect on an insect that tried to eat. For the average person, not a problem. For someone sensitive to salicylic acid, maybe it's a problem. I don't really think it was the real cause of the guy's problems. I don't think, but apparently this is the case that people with an allergy or a reaction to salicylic acid can have a reaction to certain organic fruits and vegetables that have been bred to be high in salicylic acid in order to have higher levels of natural pesticides so that the man-made pesticides aren't required. Anyway, whatever. But that's a toxin, naturally occurring toxin. And that's what toxins are. They're evolutionarily designed to poison animals. They interfere with the nervous system in certain ways, and especially the nervous system, but could be the lungs, could be different organs or whatever, but interfere with that and cause poison and harm. So toxins aren't like pollution and radiation and chemicals that are in, a lot of these things are poisonous, but they're not designed by nature to be to be specifically poisonous to you. That's what toxins are. So toxins are in plants. And animals have evolved to be able to deal with toxins in order to be able to eat particular diets and benefit from particular foods. So there'll be one caterpillar that will die if it eats a leaf, and then there'll be another caterpillar or a certain type of insect that has an immunity to that and whose body knows how to deal with that toxin just naturally. And yes, it takes in that toxin, but it deals with that toxin because it's all about the level of the toxin and whether you can deal with it. For the majority of the food that we eat, the toxins are not high enough for it to be any kind of a problem to us. And ironically, the pesticides are way lower in terms of the amount that's there, the amount left over. The amount of toxins that we take in are in the food already. It's not stuff added to the food, chemicals and all that. That's minuscule compared to the amount of naturally occurring toxins. So, total misunderstanding of what a toxin is for a start. But these toxins, the idea is that these are, building up in the body, building up and causing damage, or building up in the lymph is generally the idea, that they're building up in the lymph system and causing blockage or whatever. Now, what is that disease of blocked lymph, acid? They'll say things like acidosis, toxemia, acidic toxemia. As far as I know, these aren't like actual real uh, textbook written down disease symptoms or problems like acid. Tell me I'm wrong about this, but blocked up acids in the lymph system. That's not on anyone's death certificate. Like, oh, they died of blocked up acids. But this is what people believing in this stuff want to believe, that this is what the cause of all disease. And the reason that I find this to be wrong, like the idea that toxins are the cause of all disease, is because a lot of the diseases that people have are nothing to do with toxins. It's not toxins, because heart disease has been connected for, I don't know, 100 years now, maybe 80 years at least, with saturated fat. That is the cause of heart disease. Is a diet that's high in saturated fat. Is saturated fat a toxin? No, it's not a toxin. It's not toxic. It's not poisonous. You can sit and eat saturated fat all day. It doesn't poison you. You wouldn't feel good, but it doesn't poison you. It's not a toxin. And it does build up in your body, but it builds up as adipose tissue, as fat. Perfectly safe. Um, and the body can deal with it perfectly well. And when you eat less, your body uses it up. No problem. No tox, no poison, right? Heart disease, though, happens because of too much saturated fat. It's not because the body's been poisoned. It's not toxic effect. It's simply because of damage, because the body's not designed to deal with that quantity or that amount of saturated fat passing through the bloodstream and passing through the body. We're just not meant to be consuming that amount. It's just not what we're set up for. And over time, it causes damage to the inside of the arteries that builds up and causes arterial plaque. Now, that's one of the biggest main diseases. Is that a buildup of toxins? I don't know. If you want to label it like that or use those words, you can, but it's not a toxin related issue. It's not a buildup of toxins. It's really a buildup of, fat, cholesterol, um, damaging the inside of the arteries, gradually blocking over time. And it's reversed on a good diet. So if you believe in the 7 stages and that 7 stages of disease stuff, and that makes you eat a fruit diet, then you'll get the same effect as anyone else. In that situation, you'll get this, and you can say, my toxins have been released from my lymph system, and that's why I feel better. You can say that if you like, if that makes you feel good, if that's the fairy tale that you want to believe, but it's not really what happened. And I think it's important to know what really happened. That process is the same thing that is related to stroke. It's related to various forms of dementia, the blockage of the arteries. Men can become impotent as a result of the blockage of blood vessels in the private parts area. Diabetes is related most likely to the damage once again caused by saturated fat. These are major diseases, high blood pressure as a result. None of these things are toxic load, toxic buildup, toxins, acids. Well, you could say it's fatty acids and all that, so acids if you like, but it's not really the best description of what's happening. This is perfectly safe food that people are eating that isn't toxic, that isn't poisonous, but it is damaging people. It's just not the right proportions for us to be eating over time that causes damage. So that's something that I wanted to sort of put across. It's important to know that there's certain diseases that are connected to food, but it's not because the food's poisoning you. It's just not the right food. It's not the right quantities. It's not right for us. And it's different being poisoned to just the damage that occurs from eating the wrong diet over time. So hopefully you follow that or you understand what I'm saying. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but feel free to comment below with any of your comments or questions on that. If we look into cancer, the 7 stages of disease is saying that what happens is that there's this 7 stages, this acid buildup, this buildup of toxins leads to the cell and the inflammation and the innervation and this and that and this and then induration and then tumor. And as far as I know about cancer, this entire process is not accurate whatsoever in terms of describing how a tumor gets created. As far as I understand about cancer, cancer means cells that have gone cancerous, an individual cell. And of your trillions of cells that are replicating and being produced all the time, occasionally cells go wrong, they mutate, they have dysfunction. And what the body does when a cell goes cancerous or is damaged or whatever, the body comes in, cleans it out. White blood cells, immunity, come in and see damaged cells, destroy them, recycle them, and we keep going. What happens in cancer is that cell starts to go cancerous, which essentially it starts to replicate out of control. And that process continues, and the body is not destroying it. That's one of the unique things about cancer. Now, we don't fully understand the whole process as far as I know, but one of the concepts that was explained to me by a doctor was the idea that the cell is replicating in a cancerous way, and the body is not recognizing it as a problem, so the body is not destroying it. It's not a buildup of acid stopping the body from dealing with it immune wise. It's not a weak immune system generally. It's actually that the body is not recognizing it as a problem, and that's an unusual situation. Usually the body would see that's cancerous, that's dangerous, let's destroy that. In the situation of cancer, the body isn't recognizing it. There's a lot around this that we don't fully understand. And, the idea that, well, actually, when you cut the cancer or you try to cut it out, it actually multiplies. When you don't have to cut it out, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do all that. And the chemotherapy is what kills people, and none of this is true. This is just the kind of stuff that people like to buy into because people have these anti-authoritarian, anti-government, and like people. It's conspiracy stuff. It's basically having this bias against the system, if you want to call it the system. There's lots of mistakes and problems in the system, but a lot of it is a reflection of humanity and our imperfections and our failures and weaknesses. Why is the pharmaceutical medicine so powerful? Because people take pharmaceutical medicine. When people have a choice to change their diet or have a part of their body removed, they let them take the part out. That's what people choose. You have to understand that. People are choosing to have parts of their body cut out at great risk of themselves rather than changing their diet. They won't change. And you're saying, well, if they were forced to, well, if we give them the information, well, maybe. Maybe if we really give the information as strongly as we showed the surgery information, maybe. And the fact that the doctors aren't on board is a problem, you know. But essentially, people are often aware that they've got a choice: change your diet, lose weight, or you're coming to surgery. You're getting parts of your body removed. You're getting parts of your body cut off. And guess what? People go on doing the same thing over and over and over. Do you call that the fault of the pharmaceutical companies? And it's the same thing with pharmaceuticals. Well, you can change your life, you can change your diet, you can do all this stuff, Or you can take painkillers and pretend it's not happening. Okay, I'll take the painkillers. That's people's choice. Don't blame the doctors. This is the way things are. If we want things to change, it's through our efforts of education, changing hearts and minds over time. That's why we have to be strong with this message and not start saying to people, well, I'm not going to push this on anyone because everyone has to make their own choice. People don't have a choice. Don't have the capacity to make a choice. People are not that smart. You need to show people leadership. Take the choice away from them. Make the choice for them. That's leadership. Oh, but I'd have to actually convince someone and provide and manipulate. No. Well, they've already been manipulated their entire life to believe that the dumb way they're living is okay for them, and it's destroying them. And what you can't put it across to them in a strong way that they should change. You should. Anyway, that's a separate that's a separate thing altogether. But cancer, you know, this idea, what we're going to do is we're just going to well, it's 7 stages of disease and blah blah. As far as I understand, it's not that. It doesn't follow that process that is lined out in the 7 stages of disease whatsoever. And it might not be a toxic buildup, a buildup of toxins. I've known some people that were raw vegan, pretty healthy people that got cancer, you know, and people that went on a raw vegan diet when they got cancer. And I know people that have had a poor diet their whole life, survived cancer. So they took the chemotherapy, they did the drugs, and they're still alive. And I know people that avoided the drugs, went raw vegan, and they're dead. So these mystical fairy stories, like you're going to go raw vegan and just reverse cancer, the tumor's going to... No, it's not real. It's not toxins. It's not a weak immune system. It's cancer. It's different. And yes, are you more likely to get cancer because of poor diet? Yep. Are you going to reverse it on a better diet? Cannot give you any guarantee on that, and it's very unlikely. So when people are creating these ideas around cancer, it's giving false hope to people. It's giving false ideas. So anyway, the other points that Lauren was making. So what I'm saying is, it's not necessarily toxins. Cancer can happen to animals in the wild, like virtually every animal. So is it a bad diet causing cancer? It definitely is a big factor in multiplying your risk of cancer, but it's not the only thing. So if we anyway, moving forward from that, some of the other things Lauren was saying, but what I'm trying to say is the whole process of disease is caused by toxic buildup of acids in the lymph system that leads to the body reacting in these different ways that eventually leads to cancer. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of good evidence around it. It sounds good. A lot of things that sound good aren't true, aren't real. But it sounds good. It's helpful. If that convinces you to change your diet, then that's okay. The problem is when you have incomplete information, you'll have problems down the road at some point. You'll make mistakes at some point because your information is incomplete. The other thing Lauren is saying in terrain area is that diseases can't be caused by bacteria, by viruses, and things like that. For some reason, disease can be caused by toxic buildup, but it can't be caused by bacterial buildup. No way. Can't be caused by viruses. The idea is that all these bacteria are already in your body, and the bacteria shows up when the body's got dirty. It's like the body's full of dirt, and it's all dirty, and it's all dirt, which is all a weird... That's all human bias stuff, all this dirty thing. It's really triggering stuff for people, emotional triggering stuff. Anyway, so dirty, and you're dirty and full of toxins inside, and then the bacteria shows up to clean it up, and that's true in some situations. Or the virus is part of that process. So that is true in certain situations. Candida is an idea of that. So the idea that you have too much blood sugar, too high blood sugar as a result of a bad diet, not sugar, but a result of too much fat in the diet. Your blood sugar rises, and you get, and Candida is a yeast or a bacteria that feeds on the sugar in the bloodstream, the excess sugar in the bloodstream. So that's an example of you blame the Candida, but really it's your diet. In that situation, that's correct. You need to clean up your diet. You need to get the fat out of your diet. You need to bring the sugar. Once again, it's not toxins, it's fat. So, so we need to bring the blood sugar down. And then the Candida comes down, but it's not the Candida that causes the problem. So in that situation, it's right. Another situation would be tooth decay. When it comes to tooth decay, what's happening is there's a sticky plaque of with sugar and everything, and it's all stuck coated to your teeth, and the bacteria in your teeth come in, and the bacteria, the waste product of the bacteria damages the teeth. And then we say, oh, it's the bacteria's fault. Well, yeah, it is the bacteria's fault, but it wouldn't happen without the plaque, without all the sugar, without the sticky sugar stuck to the teeth. So that's why we brush our teeth, to remove the bacteria. But at the same time, if there wasn't the bacteria, it also wouldn't happen. So the idea that it's not the bacteria is not true. In the case of like tooth decay, there's an element to it where, yeah, if you didn't have that sticky plaque, sugar stuck to your teeth for that period of time, yeah, the bacteria wouldn't rise like that, and the waste of the bacteria wouldn't cause much damage. But it's the bacteria. Like in that situation, it's the bacteria that's causing that damage through their waste. So that's a situation clearly where bacteria can cause disease, to cause tooth decay. But there are plenty of other situations in which bacteria are not a result of cleaning up toxins in the body. And the whole history of antibiotics and stuff like that leads back to this, where we go back to a time where people would be working in their gardens, they would be cut, and bacteria from plants would get into their system. So literally people touching roses, rose bushes, getting a prick from a rose bush, and they could get a bacterial infection. Now you might say, well, the person was maybe sick already, maybe they're an older person, their immune system is low, and that could all be absolutely accurate. But that doesn't stop the fact that the bacteria is the contributing factor in that situation. So many people working in their gardens got bacteria getting into their hands, bacteria getting into their body, and develop bacterial infection. And we learned how to deal with that through the process of antibiotics. Before that, there was absolutely no solution when someone had a bacterial infection. There was no solution. They would just die. They would just die. And this happened commonly. Now, this is a fairly common thing in the world of natural health, where people have solved their diet related diseases, and they think, I'm a superman, I'm a superwoman, I can solve any disease, my immune system's perfect, I can't, bacteria can't affect me because I don't have any toxins, and it's wrong. It is totally wrong. And people in the natural health world die of bacterial infections quite commonly. It's happened quite a lot because and I can name names if you want, but it happens quite a lot because people won't take antibiotics because they've got these miseducation, but you cannot get disease from bacteria. It's all a toxic buildup. They've caught into all these dogmatic stories. And the doctor can be like, listen, this is used on millions of people every year. This gets rid of the problem in a day, typically. And the person's like, no, 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 no. And they go to their raw food friends. What's my natural? What herb can I take? Why are you playing around with herbs? Antibiotics. Now that's not for every situation either. So you don't go the other side where you go antibiotics for everything. No, No, it depends. But certain things, they treat it with antibiotics every day, all the time, works really quickly. I had a fruitarian girl come to me. Well, we just happened to bump into each other. Not didn't come to me. We bumped into each other in Thailand, and she was losing her voice. There was something going on with her throat. She'd went to the doctor, and they prescribed her antibiotics, and she was like, "I'm not sure I want to take these, but I'm like losing my voice." And 100% fruitarian, tropical fruit diet in the sunshine, Koh Phangan, living outside, barefoot, all of that stuff. No financial pressures. Smart person, right? Um, and she's like, I'm not sure if I should take these antibiotics or not. People might judge me, and the fruitarians would say, not, don't do this. So I said, yeah, take them, take them. I've taken them. And I know people that taken them and wouldn't even think twice about taking them. So she took them, and the problem went away within super quick. That's what antibiotics can do. People don't get it. When you've had that experience, and this is the problem with people, not had the experience, not been around people, not seen these things happen, not seen the person the next day it goes away. The next day it goes away. Multiple times seeing that. So when you have the life experience and the people experience, then you change your dogma. You don't go, oh, I must hold on to my 7 stages of disease, acidosis, toxic buildup. It's a dogma. And it actually kills people. That's why it's dangerous. Super dangerous. And then the idea, obviously, so bacteria definitely causes disease. The idea that viruses don't cause disease is very, you know, once again, there's a balance to this. So do fruitarians generally get the common cold? Often we don't, you know. Often we don't. Or if we do, maybe you have it for half a day. Do you get the flu? No. Part of the reason I didn't take the COVID vaccine and wasn't worried about COVID because I never get the flu. So I just thought, well, it's flu-like virus. I tend to not get the flu. I think it's probably not going to be a problem for me. That was the way I was thinking of it. That's why I don't take the flu shot. I don't take the COVID vaccine. That was the way I was looking at it. Not a big anti-vax guy, not against all vaccines, but I just looked at that one in that particular way. When it comes to like I went to Woodstock and a bunch of people got COVID after Woodstock, and I didn't. Like I went and got tested. I never had COVID. I got tested many times. I never got COVID. Never got positive for COVID. So is that partially terrain theory, like your body's clean or your immune system's good, or yeah, that's a part of it for sure. I think it might even just be natural. I might just have a kind of inbuilt genetic thing protecting me from some of these diseases. Although I used to get colds every year, so I don't know about that. But but yeah, I mean, viruses of other types, I think certainly are a problem and certainly do cause problems. Um, I think viruses are a cause of disease. I do think that there are vaccines that work as far as I mean, what do you know, I'm not a real huge qualified expert in these things, but I personally wouldn't be against taking certain shots, certain vaccines or whatever. I would be against that. Not particularly. I don't really want to do it. No one wants to do it. But I can't. I mean, have have they made a huge impact? I mean, I think the people that go to the entire anti-vax side, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, and I do think that a lot of these things, it's really, if people were healthier, it probably wouldn't be an issue, a lot of these things, because it's generally a small amount of people that like die of the measles or whatever. But still, is it better that we just get rid of the measles so that no one dies of it? You know, I when I was a child took vaccines, of course. There was one vaccine that we didn't take, that me and my brothers didn't take, because one of my brothers was allergic to it. And it was whooping cough, pertussis, I think it's called, whooping cough. And the one childhood communicable disease that me and my brothers got was whooping cough. We got whooping cough. And no one else I knew got whooping cough. And I can't help but think, well, isn't that because they were all vaccinated for it and I wasn't? You know? So I don't know, maybe not, but that's my life experience, of that situation happening. So the viruses cause disease, like as far as we know. And then the whole concept of, she said that the diseases can't be transmitted from one person to another. Well, that's like, and then she was saying, the reason that one person gets sick and then everyone in their family gets sick is because they're all on the same diet. And you're like, no, that it it can't you can't make it as simplistic as that. It's so obvious that diseases spread from person to person. It's so obvious that happens. Talk to anyone that's had a sexually transmitted disease. Talk to, I don't know, the gay community in the 1980s and the HIV and AIDS and all that stuff. I mean, T.C. Fry was saying AIDS is a scam. Millions of people dying from it, but it's a scam. They're just all drug addicts, And like, I think there's good evidence, not a qualified researcher. This, I think there's good evidence that diseases can spread from one person to another through being passed, through proximity, through blood, through whatever. Now, does that mean that you will get a disease? No, because once again, if you've got a common cold and you're around me, maybe I don't get it, but I probably get it. Like, it comes into my system, it's just that my immune system is stronger or whatever. But we can't say that it's not a factor in the cause of disease. Now, if you're saying, well, the person wouldn't get it if they were healthier, yeah, but once again, I know long-term raw vegans that have had the cold or got sick like that. I've seen that. And yeah, maybe their diet wasn't perfect and all that stuff, and they could have done better. And so anyway, this is quite a long video, but these are incomplete ideas. These are old-fashioned ideas. People love to go and read the old books. There's some people that love these old weird books. These old weird books, I've never really read them. They're difficult to read. Arnold Ehret and all that stuff. There's a guy called Hilton Hotima. He's like saying we should live on air and sunlight. And people read these books and they're like, oh, I can be a breatharian too. It's like, no, these guys never did this stuff. It's all bogus. And they might have nice writing and it might be powerful, influential, spiritual sounding, but it's anti real spirituality and practice, I think, because it's wrong. It's not truthful. It's not real. It's delusion. Wanting to believe that you can go your whole life with avoiding all medication, that all disease is just a buildup of toxins, and it's as long as you eat fruit, you're absolutely perfect all your life. You're never going to have any issue whatsoever. It's just it's a wrong thinking, and the thing that will wake people up is, unfortunately, when they go through pain, when they go through disease, some people don't wake up and they end up dying from stuff like this. So that I'm cautious with my message because I know that people can die, because I've got experience in the real world of meeting so many people, of seeing what happens. And a lot of these influencers don't have the real world long-term experience with long-term raw vegans, actual people who do a raw vegan diet, not listening to John Tilden from 250 years ago who never ate a vegan diet in his life, probably. So the history of natural hygiene is beautiful stuff. It's amazing what they were doing. They had great ideas, but they were wrong. They were wrong. And the terrain theory is wrong. And we need to give this stuff up. We need to give it up and see that there's a balance here. So that's my message for you today. That's why I don't fully support that way of thinking. But at the same time, a lot of us are saying the same thing: eat a fruit diet, and you'll so many diseases you'll avoid by fruitarian diet, raw vegan, staying healthy, getting fit, having an active life. You know, healthy life is a good life, and that's what we want to live, the good life. So thank you very much. Feel free to subscribe, share the video, put comments below. Thank you very much.